The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched for miles in every direction. Its ceiling disappeared into darkness, dotted with floating lights that looked like captured stars. Representatives from 3,000 species sat in their assigned seats, arranged in perfect circles that rose higher and higher toward the infinite black above. At the center of this massive chamber stood a single human woman. Her name was, and she was Earth's ambassador to the galaxy. She wore a simple dark suit, and her black hair was tied back neatly. She stood alone on a floating platform, surrounded by aliens who looked down at her with cold eyes. The High Speaker of the Council was a tall creature made of living crystal. Light passed through its body and created rainbows on the floor. When it spoke, its voice echoed through the entire hall like thunder. The Galactic Council has reached its decision regarding species 7742, known as humanity, the crystal being announced. After careful review of your actions over the past century, we have found you guilty of numerous violations. Did not move. She kept her hands clasped behind her back and her face calm. She had known this moment was coming for months now. You have violated trade agreements 17 times, the High Speaker continued. You have interfered in the internal conflicts of 4 protected species. You have developed weapons that were specifically banned by galactic law. You have spread your culture aggressively to younger civilizations. And most seriously, you have refused to follow the guidance of the elder races. A murmur spread through the assembled representatives. Thousands of different sounds mixed together into a wave of noise that washed over. She could hear clicks, whistles, growls, and sounds that human ears could barely detect. Does the human representative wish to speak in defense of her species? The High Speaker asked. Looked up at the crystal being. She could see her own reflection in its smooth surface, tiny and alone against the vastness of the chamber. I do, she said. Her voice was steady and clear. The hall fell silent. Every eye, every sensor, every perception organ in the room focused on the small human woman standing in the center of billions of tons of alien architecture. We are guilty of everything you have said, began. We broke trade agreements because they were unfair. We interfered in conflicts because innocent beings were dying. We developed weapons because we needed to protect ourselves. We shared our culture because others asked us to share it. And we refused to follow the elder races because they tried to control us like children. The murmur returned, louder this time. Some representatives stood from their seats in anger. Others leaned forward with interest. Humanity is not sorry for what we have done, continued. We are sorry that we could not make you understand why we did it. You see chaos where we see freedom. You see disorder where we see creativity. You see threats where we see potential. The High Speaker raised one of its crystal arms, and the hall fell silent again. Your words are noted, Ambassador, it said, but they do not change the verdict. The Galactic Council has voted. The result is unanimous. Felt her heart beat faster, but she did not let it show on her face. Earth and all human colonies are hereby exiled from the galactic community, the High Speaker declared. All trade routes will be closed. All communication channels will be shut down. All treaties will be canceled. Human ships will no longer be welcome in any port controlled by the Council. Any human found in galactic space after 30 standard days will be arrested and detained indefinitely. The words hit like physical blows, but she remained standing straight. Behind her, the small group of human diplomats who had accompanied her sat in shock. Some of them had tears in their eyes. They had spent their entire careers building relationships with alien species, and now everything they had worked for was being destroyed. Furthermore, the High Speaker continued, all knowledge of human technology will be purged from galactic databases. All cultural exchanges will be reversed. All joint research projects will be terminated. It will be as if humanity never existed in the galactic record. Took a deep breath. This was worse than she had expected. Total exile, complete separation. The galaxy was not just pushing humanity away, it was trying to erase them entirely. "Does the human representative have any final words?" the High Speaker asked. Looked around the Great Hall one last time. She saw the delegation, tall insect-like beings who had once called humans their closest allies. They would not meet her eyes now. She saw the gentle giants covered in blue fur who had traded art and music with Earth for decades. They looked sad but did not speak up in humanity's defense. She saw the crystalline collective, beings like the High Speaker, who had taught humans about faster-than-light travel. They sat motionless and cold. None of them would help. None of them would stand against the Council's decision. Smiled. It was not a sad smile or a forced smile. It was genuine, and it confused everyone who saw it. "I do have final words," she said. "On behalf of humanity, I accept this verdict." The hall went silent in a different way now. This was the silence of surprise. "You expected us to beg," continued. "You expected us to cry and ask for mercy. You expected us to promise to change our ways and follow your rules." She shook her head slowly. "We will not do any of those things." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. The guards around the hall raised their weapons but only pressed a single button. Holographic images appeared in the air around her, showing scenes from Earth, families having dinner together, children playing in parks, scientists working in laboratories, artists creating beautiful things. "This is humanity," said. "We are messy and loud and sometimes we make mistakes, but we are also kind and brave and full of dreams. You think you are punishing us by sending us away, but you are actually setting us free." She turned off the device and put it back in her pocket. Then she gave a slow, respectful bow to the Council, the same bow her grandmother had taught her as a child. "Thank you for 100 years of partnership," she said. "We learned a lot from all of you. We hope you learned something from us too. And when you realize that you need us again, and you will, we will be waiting. But we will not be the same humans you knew before." She turned to her diplomatic team and gestured for them to stand. "We will leave now," she announced. "We will be gone from your space within 30 days as you ordered. But remember this moment, Council. Remember the day you chose fear over friendship. Remember the day you sent away the only species in the galaxy that truly understood what it means to be free." Walked off the platform with her head held high. Her team followed her, still stunned but finding strength in their ambassador's calm confidence. As they walked toward the exit, they passed thousands of alien representatives. Some looked at them with hatred. Others looked confused. A few, just a handful among the thousands, looked almost regretful. When they reached the great doors of the council hall, stopped one last time, she turned back to face the assembled galaxy. "Goodbye," she said simply. Then she grinned, a wide and genuine grin that showed all of her teeth. "And good luck. You are going to need it." The doors closed behind her, and humanity's official relationship with the galactic community came to an end. Outside the hall, her team surrounded her. Her chief advisor grabbed her arm. "What do we do now?" he asked. His voice was shaking. "Everything we built, everything we worked for." Put her hand on his shoulder and squeezed gently. "Now we go home," she said, "and we tell 8 billion people that we are finally, truly free. No more rules written by species who fear us. No more restrictions designed to keep us small. No more begging for permission to be ourselves." She started walking toward their ship, and her team followed. "They think they have defeated us," said as they walked. "They have no idea what they have done. They have just removed every limit that was holding us back." She looked up at the alien stars, through the station's transparent ceiling. "The galaxy decided to exile Earth," she said softly, "and humanity will grin and walk away, because we know something they do not." "What is that?" asked. Smiled again, that same confident smile she had shown the council. "We know that the best things in history have been built by people who were told they could not do it. And now, The entire galaxy has just told humanity that we cannot be part of their community. They have just given us the greatest motivation we have ever had. She reached their ship and stopped at the boarding ramp. "Send a message to Earth," she ordered. "Tell them the verdict, tell them we are coming home, and tell them to start celebrating." "Celebrating?" asked in disbelief. "We were just exiled from the galaxy." "Exactly," said. "We were just set free." She walked up the ramp and into the ship, leaving her confused but slowly hopeful team to follow. The ship lifted off from the council station and turned toward Earth. Behind them, 3,000 species watched them go and believed they had seen the last of humanity. They could not have been more wrong. Captain stood on the bridge of the Unity, the flagship of Earth's newly formed combined fleet. Through the wide windows in front of him, he could see 200 human ships flying in perfect formation. Behind them, the last galactic trade station grew smaller and smaller until it was just a tiny point of light. They were leaving, all of them. Every human ship in galactic space was heading home. "Captain," said his communications officer, a young woman named. "We are receiving messages from dozens of alien vessels. They want to know why we are not fighting the verdict." Smiled slightly. "Tell them we have nothing to fight about. The galaxy does not want us, so we are leaving." Looked confused but followed his orders. She had been working with alien species her entire career. The idea of simply walking away was strange to her. "Sir," said his navigation officer, a calm man named. "All ships report ready. We can begin the jump to Earth space on your command." Nodded. He took one last look at the stars around them, stars he had spent 20 years traveling between. He had made friends among the aliens. He had learned their languages and their customs. He had believed that humans and aliens could live together as equals. The Council had proven him wrong. "All ships," said into the fleet communication system. "This is Captain, we are going home. Jump in 30 seconds." The fleet acknowledged his order, 200 voices speaking as one. Turned to look at his crew. They were scared and uncertain. He could see it in their eyes. Everything they knew was changing. "I know this feels like a defeat," he said to them. "I know it feels like we are running away, but listen to me carefully. We are not running, we are choosing. The galaxy gave us a choice, change who we are or leave. We chose to leave. That is not weakness, that is strength." The countdown reached 0, and space twisted around them. In a flash of light, 200 ships disappeared from galactic space and reappeared in the Sol system. Earth hung before them like a blue and green jewel, more beautiful than any alien world had ever seen. "Welcome home," he said softly. The fleet split apart as ships headed to their assigned ports. Military vessels went to the orbital stations. Cargo ships headed for the space elevators. Personal transports descended toward cities on every continent. Guided the Unity to the main command station orbiting above the Pacific Ocean. As he approached, he could see thousands of smaller craft moving around Earth. The planet was alive with activity. "Captain," said suddenly, "you need to see this." She put the Earth news feeds on the main screen. Expected to see panic. He expected riots and protests and despair. Instead, he saw parties. In every major city on Earth, people were celebrating. They filled the streets with music and dancing. They set off fireworks that painted the sky with color. They held up signs that said things like "Free at last," and "The galaxy can keep its rules." "I do not understand," said. "We were just exiled. Why are they celebrating?" Laughed. It was the first genuine laugh he had felt in months. "Because they have been waiting for this," he said. "For 100 years we followed galactic rules. We limited our technology. We controlled our expansion. We held ourselves back because we thought it was the right thing to do. And now, we do not have to do any of that anymore." The Unity docked at the command station and made his way to the central meeting hall. Representatives from every nation on Earth were gathering there. The world leaders had called an emergency summit and had been asked to attend. When he entered the hall, he was surprised to find that the atmosphere was not heavy or sad. People were talking excitedly, sharing ideas and plans. It was more like a celebration than a crisis meeting. "Captain," said a familiar voice. He turned to see the ambassador who had faced the council alone. She looked tired but satisfied, like someone who had finished a difficult job. "Ambassador," he said, bowing slightly, "that was quite a speech you gave." She smiled. "I meant every word. We are finally free. The galaxy held us back for a century, and now there is nothing stopping us." The meeting began shortly after. The Secretary General of the United Nations, a dignified man named, stood at the front of the hall. "Friends," he said, "I will not pretend that today is not difficult. We have been rejected by the galactic community. Thousands of years of effort to join the stars, and they have told us we are not welcome." The room quieted. Despite the celebrations outside, the leaders knew the serious nature of their situation. But, continued, "we have also been given an incredible opportunity. For the first time in 100 years, we can make our own decisions without asking permission from alien councils." He pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed Earth and all of its colonies, along with data about resources, population, and technology. "The galactic restrictions limited us in many ways," explained. "We were not allowed to develop certain types of engines. We could not research specific energy sources. We were banned from creating advanced artificial intelligence. Our population growth was regulated. Our colonies were restricted to approved locations." He waved his hand and the display changed. The restrictions disappeared, replaced by new possibilities. "All of those limits are now gone," he said. "We have the scientific knowledge, we have the resources, we have the people. The only question is, what do we want to build?" The room erupted in excited conversation. Scientists stood up to propose research projects that had been forbidden. Military leaders suggested defense improvements. Engineers described infrastructure that could transform human civilization. Listened to all of it, but his attention was caught by a small group in the corner of the room. They were not politicians or military commanders. They were young people, perhaps students or junior researchers. One of them, a woman with bright eyes, was speaking passionately to the others. He walked over to listen. "The galactic species are thousands of years ahead of us technologically," the young woman was saying. "But they stopped improving. They reached a level they were comfortable with and stayed there. They follow rules that their ancestors made, and they never question them." "And humans are different?" one of her companions asked. "Yes," she said firmly. "Humans never stop. We always want more, always want better. It is annoying and chaotic and sometimes dangerous, but it is also why we will surpass them." Cleared his throat, and the young people turned to look at him. Their eyes widened when they saw his captain's uniform. "What is your name?" he asked the young woman. She said, "I am a researcher at the Seoul Advanced Sciences Institute, or I was. I was studying galactic technology, but now you can study something more interesting," finished. "Human technology, our technology, the things we could not build because the council forbade them." Nodded eagerly. "Exactly. I have theories, Captain, ideas that could change everything, but under galactic law I could not even test them." Looked at her and saw something he recognized. The same fire that had driven humans to explore, to discover, to push beyond every limit. The galaxy had tried to put out that fire and they had failed. "Come with me," he said. "I want you to meet some people." He led and her group back to where and were talking. The ambassador and the Secretary General looked up as they approached. "This is," said. "She has ideas about technology the galaxy never wanted us to have. I think we should listen to her." Studied the young researcher with interest. "What kind of ideas?" Took a deep breath. She had never expected to speak directly to world leaders, but this was her chance. The galaxy uses hyperspace drives that were invented 50,000 years ago, she said. They work, but they are slow and inefficient. I believe I can build something better, something faster. The council banned research into alternative faster-than-light technology because they said it was dangerous. I think they banned it because they were scared of what we might create. Leaned forward, how much faster? 10 times, said, maybe more. I need proper funding and equipment. I need a team. I need permission to fail and try again. The galactic rules never allowed any of that. The Secretary General and the Ambassador exchanged looks. A decision passed between them without words. You have everything you asked for, said. As of now, all galactic technology restrictions are lifted. All banned research is approved. Build whatever you can dream of, build it for humanity. His face lit up with joy and determination. Around the room, other scientists and researchers reacted the same way. Doors that had been locked for a century were suddenly open. Outside the station windows, Earth continued to spin. Its people continued to celebrate. Ships continued to arrive from galactic space, bringing home the last humans who had been scattered among the stars. The galaxy had exiled them. The galaxy had thought it was a punishment. Humanity grinned and walked away. And in laboratories and workshops and research stations across the solar system, 100 years of forbidden dreams began to take shape. The exile was not an ending. It was a beginning. Stood at the window and watched his home planet. He thought about all the alien friends he had left behind, all the relationships now broken. It hurt. It would always hurt. But when he looked at and the other young scientists already making plans, when he saw the determination on his face, when he felt the energy of a species finally unleashed, he knew something important. The galaxy had made a mistake. And by the time they realized it, humanity would be ready to show them exactly how big that mistake was. 30 days, said to himself, remembering the deadline the council had given them. 30 days to leave galactic space. They thought they were giving us a limit. He smiled, the same confident smile he had seen on his face in the council hall. They were giving us a countdown, and when it reaches 0, everything changes. The lights of Earth glittered below him, 8 billion people looking up at the stars with new eyes. The exile had begun, and so had humanity's true journey among the stars. 50 years passed in silence. The galaxy forgot about the exiled humans. Trade routes continued without them. Councils met and made decisions without human voices. Wars were fought and peace was made without human interference. Life went on for 3,000 species who believed they had removed a troublesome problem from their perfect order. On Earth, everything changed. Stood in her laboratory on the moon. She was 72 years old now, but advanced medical technology had kept her sharp and strong. Her hair was gray, but her eyes still held the same fire they had when she was young. Run it again, she said. Her assistant, a brilliant engineer named, nodded and activated the machine in front of them. It was small, no bigger than a house cat, but it contained technology that would have made the Galactic Council scream in terror. The machine hummed softly. Space around it began to bend and twist. Colors appeared that human eyes had never been meant to see, and then, with a soft pop, the machine vanished. 3 seconds later, it reappeared on the other side of the laboratory. Checked the data on her screen and smiled. Distance traveled, 15 kilometers. Time elapsed, 0.3 seconds. The galactic drive would have taken 3 minutes to cover the same distance. Let out a breath he had been holding. It works. Doctor, it actually works. After 50 years, we finally did it. Shook her head. No. After 50 years, we improved it enough to test it safely. We solved the theoretical problems 20 years ago, but the Council's designs were so different from what we needed that it took decades to build the hardware. She walked to the window of her laboratory and looked out at the lunar surface. In the distance, she could see the lights of New Sol, a city of 2 million people built inside a massive dome. Beyond that, she could see the construction yards where ships were being built, ships using technologies the galaxy had never imagined. 50 years of work, 50 years of freedom, 50 years of humanity doing exactly what the galaxy had always feared they would do, refusing to accept limits. "Send a message to Earth," said. "Tell the Council of Nations that the jump drive is ready for full-scale testing, and tell them to prepare the Independence for its first flight." The Independence was humanity's greatest achievement. It was a ship 5 kilometers long, powered by energy systems the galactic species had declared impossible. It carried weapons that made galactic battleships look like toys. And now it would be equipped with a drive system that could cross the entire galaxy in days instead of years. Had spent her whole life building toward this moment. She had been a young researcher when the Exile began, full of dreams and theories. Now she was an old woman who had made those dreams real. "Doctor," said softly, "do you ever wonder what the galaxy is doing now, what they think happened to us?" Considered the question. "I used to wonder all the time. I imagined them talking about us, laughing about the foolish humans who thought they could survive alone. But then I stopped caring." "Why?" "Because it does not matter what they think. We know what we have accomplished. When we are ready to show them, they will see for themselves." She turned away from the window. "Come, we have a lot of work to do before the test flight." On Earth, in a small village in the mountains of Korea, a different kind of work was being done. Jin was a teacher. He was 90 years old, part of the generation that remembered the Exile, when he had been a young man full of anger at the galactic species who had rejected humanity. Now he was old and patient, and his anger had transformed into something else entirely. He sat in a circle with his students, children between 7 and 12 years old. They looked up at him with curious eyes, waiting for him to speak. "Today," Jin said, "I am going to tell you about the galaxy." The children stirred with excitement. Stories about the galaxy were always interesting. Aliens with strange bodies, ships that traveled between stars, wonders that seemed like magic. "A long time ago," Jin began, "humans lived among the alien species. We traded with them. We learned from them. We thought we were partners." "But they kicked us out," said one of the children, a girl named. "They said we were bad." "They said we were too different," Jin corrected gently. "They did not understand us, and they were afraid of what they did not understand. So yes, they told us to leave." "And we left," said another child, a boy named One. "We did. We walked away with our heads held high. We did not beg or cry. We accepted their decision and came home." Raised her hand. "Teacher Jin, why did we not fight them? We have big ships now. We could fight them." Jin smiled at the question. It was a good question, the kind that showed the child was thinking. "We could have fought," he agreed. "We could have refused to leave and started a war. Many people wanted to do that, but our leaders chose a different path." "Why?" "Because fighting would have proven that the aliens were right about us. They called us violent and dangerous. If we had attacked them, we would have become exactly what they said we were." Jin paused to let this sink in. "Instead, we chose to become something better. We chose to grow and improve and build without hurting anyone." He stood up and walked to the window of the classroom. Outside, the mountains stretched toward the sky, green and beautiful. A transport ship flew overhead, heading toward the spaceport in the valley below. "For 50 years," Jin continued, "we have been alone. We have had no one to trade with, no one to talk to, no one to help us. We had to do everything ourselves. And we did. We built cities on the Moon and Mars. We created technologies that the galaxy said were impossible. We became stronger and smarter and more united than we have ever been in our history." "Are we going to go back," asked, "to the galaxy?" Jin turned back to his students. This was the question he had been waiting for. "Someday," he said, "when we are ready, when we have something to offer that they cannot refuse, when they need us more than we need them. How will we know when that time comes?" Jin chuckled softly. "We will know, trust me, we will know." Far away, on a station at the edge of the solar system, Admiral looked at the data in front of her and frowned. She was the commander of humanity's outer defense network, the system of ships and stations that protected Earth from any outside threat. For 50 years, that threat had been theoretical. No alien ship had approached human space since the Exile. The galaxy seemed content to pretend that humanity did not exist. But the data in front of her suggested that something was wrong, not with humanity, but with the galaxy itself. "Are you sure about this?" she asked her intelligence officer, a young man named. "Yes, Admiral. Our long-range sensors have picked up unusual activity in several galactic sectors, ships moving in patterns that suggest conflict, energy signatures consistent with weapons fire, and radio traffic that indicates panic." Studied the information carefully. During the Exile, humanity had not stopped watching the galaxy. They had built sensor stations disguised as asteroids and placed them in strategic locations throughout galactic space. These stations gathered information and sent it back to Earth through hidden communication channels. "It looks like a war," said finally. "Multiple wars, actually. At least 4 different conflicts in different parts of the galaxy." "That matches our analysis," confirmed. "And there is more. Our sensors have detected the collapse of several major trade routes. Ships that used to travel certain paths have stopped moving. Stations that used to broadcast signals have gone silent." "The galaxy is falling apart," said softly. She had been a child when the Exile began. She remembered watching the celebrations on television, not really understanding what they meant. She had grown up in a world that was completely focused on itself, a world that had no contact with alien species. Now she was looking at evidence that the galaxy humanity had been forced to leave was tearing itself apart. "Send this information to the Council of Nations," she ordered. "They need to know what is happening out there." "Should we prepare for anything, Admiral?" Thought about the question. For 50 years, humanity had been building ships, weapons, defenses, technologies. All of it was meant to protect them from a galaxy that had rejected them. But what if that galaxy no longer existed as a threat? What if the threat had destroyed itself? "Increase our monitoring," she said. "I want to know everything that happens out there. But do not change our defensive posture. We are not part of their problems, and we should not become part of them unless we choose to." Nodded and left to follow her orders. Remained at her window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien species were fighting and dying. Trade networks that had existed for thousands of years were collapsing. Civilizations that had called humanity dangerous were proving to be far more dangerous to themselves. She did not feel happy about it. She felt sad, actually. All those species, all those cultures, all that history, destroying itself because they could not solve their problems without violence. But she also felt something else. A small, quiet feeling that she did not want to examine too closely. Relief. Because if the galaxy was falling apart, it meant that humanity had been right to leave. It meant that the Exile had not been a punishment. It had been an escape. And when the dust settled, when the wars ended and the survivors looked around at what they had destroyed, they would remember the species they had sent away. They would remember humanity. And humanity would be ready to answer when they called. In her laboratory, completed another test of the jump drive. In his classroom, Jin finished his lesson and sent his students home. In her command center, continued to watch the galaxy burn. And on Earth, 8 billion people went about their lives, unaware that the moment they had been preparing for was almost here. The quiet years were ending. The next chapter of humanity's story was about to begin. The Galactic Council Hall was no longer beautiful. Cracks ran through the ancient walls. Half of the floating lights had gone dark. Many of the seats were empty, their occupants either dead or too busy fighting wars to attend meetings. The chamber that once held representatives of 3,000 species now held less than 500. High Speaker stood at the center of the hall. He was not made of crystal like the previous High Speaker. That entire species had been wiped out in a plague 2 years ago. Was one of the tall, insect-like beings who had once been humanity's closest allies. His 4 arms trembled as he read the latest reports. "The northern trade route has collapsed completely," he announced. "Pirate attacks have destroyed the last convoy ships. They have declared that they will no longer send food shipments through that sector." A wave of distressed sounds filled the hall. The northern trade route had been the main connection between the agricultural worlds and the industrial centers. Without it, billions of beings would face starvation. "The crystalline collective has stopped responding to communications," continued. "There shows no signs of activity. We believe they have entered some kind of hibernation state. They may never wake up." More sounds of despair. The crystallines had been the keepers of hyperspace technology. Without them, ships that broke down could not be repaired. The galaxy's transportation network was failing. And the war between the Ali and the Empire has spread to 3 more systems. Finished. Both sides are using weapons that were banned by treaty. The death toll is now estimated at 4 billion. A representative stood up. She was smaller than most of her species, and her blue fur was streaked with gray from stress. "High Speaker," she said, "how did this happen? For 50,000 years the galactic community maintained peace and prosperity. We were stable, we were united, and now everything is falling apart." Did not answer immediately. He knew the answer, but he did not want to say it. None of them wanted to say it. But the truth could not be avoided forever. "We removed the humans," he said finally. The hall erupted in argument. Some representatives shouted that humans had nothing to do with their problems. Others demanded that take back his words. A few sat in silence, remembering the day 50 years ago when they had voted to exile Earth. "Silence," commanded. His voice echoed through the broken hall and the argument stopped. "I know that many of you do not want to hear this. I did not want to say it, but we must face the truth." He activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy before the exile. Trade routes connected thousands of worlds. Different colors represented different species, all woven together in a complex web of relationships. "This is what we looked like 50 years ago," said, "and this is where the humans were." A new color appeared on the map. It was everywhere, not dominating any area but present in almost every region. Human traders, human diplomats, human scientists, human peacekeepers, scattered throughout the galaxy like threads holding a tapestry together. "We thought humans were causing problems," said. "We thought they were too chaotic, too unpredictable. We thought removing them would make us more stable." He changed the display to show the current galaxy. The web of connections was broken. Entire sections were dark. Wars burned like fire across multiple regions. "We were wrong," admitted. "Humans were not causing problems. They were solving them. They were the ones who mediated disputes before they became wars. They were the ones who found creative solutions when our traditional methods failed. They were the ones who connected species that had nothing in common." A Ali ambassador stood up. His reptilian scales were from battle, and one of his eyes was covered with a patch. "Are you saying we should ask the humans for help?" he demanded. "After we exiled them, after we erased them from our records, they would laugh at us." "They might," agreed. "They have every right to, but do we have any other choice?" The question hung in the air. No one answered because no one had an answer. On a small station near the border of what used to be the crystalline collective territory, a trader named Bari was trying to survive. She had been stranded for 3 weeks. Her ship's hyperspace drive had failed, and there were no crystallines left to repair it. Her food supplies were running low. Her communication equipment could not reach any friendly stations. She was going to die. She had accepted that. She just wished she could see her family one more time before the end. Unknown vessel approaching, her ship's computer announced. Bari looked at her sensors, expecting to see pirates. This region was full of them now that law and order had collapsed. She reached for her emergency weapon, a small plasma pistol that would do little against a real threat. But the ship on her sensors was not a pirate vessel. It was not any design she recognized. It was sleek and elegant, moving faster than any ship she had ever seen. "This is the human diplomatic vessel Olive Branch," a voice said over her communication system. "We detected your distress signal. Do you require assistance?" Bari stared at her communication panel in shock. Humans. Actual humans. She had heard stories about them from her grandmother, who remembered the days when humans walked through galactic markets and chatted with traders of every species. "Yes," Bari managed to say. "Yes, please, I need help." The human ship approached her vessel and extended a docking tube. Bari made her way to the airlock, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and hope. The airlock opened, and she found herself facing a human woman with a kind smile. The woman was wearing a simple uniform with a symbol Bari did not recognize, some kind of planet with a ring around it. "Hello," the woman said. "My name is, are you hurt?" "No," Bari said, "just stranded. My drive is broken." Nodded. "We can fix that. We have brought spare parts and technicians. In the meantime, would you like something to eat? You look hungry." Bari followed into the human ship, still not quite believing what was happening. The interior was clean and modern, filled with technology that looked nothing like galactic standard. Other humans moved through the corridors, all of them giving Bari friendly nods as she passed. "Why are you here?" Bari asked as led her to a dining area. "Why are you helping me? We exiled your people." Smile became a little sad. "You did, but that was 50 years ago and you did not personally vote for it. You are just someone who needs help and we are people who can give it." "But why?" Placed a plate of food in front of Bari. It was simple fare, bread and vegetables and some kind of meat, but it smelled delicious. "Because that is who we are," said. "The galaxy told us we were too chaotic to be part of their community. They were not entirely wrong. We are chaotic. We are unpredictable. We do not follow rules that do not make sense. But we also do not turn away from people who need help, even if those people hurt us in the past." Bari ate in silence, thinking about what it said. The humans had been gone for 50 years. In that time, the galaxy had torn itself apart. And now the humans were back, not with weapons or demands, but with food and spare parts and kindness. "What do you want from us?" Bari asked finally. "No one helps for free. What are you looking for?" Considered the question. "Right now, nothing. We are just watching, learning what has happened while we were away. When the time is right, we will talk to your leaders. We will offer to help with bigger problems than one broken ship, but we will not force anything. The galaxy pushed us away. If the galaxy wants us back, the galaxy will have to ask." Back in the council hall, the debate continued. Some representatives argued that contacting the humans was impossible. Others said it was humiliating. A few insisted that humans were probably extinct and not worth discussing. But a growing number were listening to High Speaker. "We have received reports from the border regions," announced. "Human ships have been appearing near our territories. They are not attacking. They are not threatening. They are helping." He showed images captured by various sensors. Human vessels rescuing stranded travelers. Human medical teams treating plague victims on dying worlds. Human engineers repairing infrastructure that galactic technicians could not fix. "They are showing us who they are," said. "They are showing us who they always were, and they are waiting for us to remember." An elderly representative rose slowly from her seat. She had been on the council 50 years ago. She had voted for the Exile. "I remember them," she said, her voice cracking with age and emotion. "I remember the humans. They were frustrating and confusing. They never did things the way we expected. They asked questions that no one else asked. They challenged ideas that everyone else accepted." She paused, gathering her strength. "And they were the best friends the galaxy ever had. They cared about species they had never met. They fought for causes that gave them no benefit. They loved life in ways we never understood." Tears ran down her blue fur. "I voted to send them away. I thought we would be better without them. I was wrong. I was so wrong." The hall fell silent. Many of the representatives who remained had similar memories, similar regrets. They had been so certain that humans were a problem. They had been so confident that removing them would solve everything. Now their confidence was ash, and their certainty was broken. "What do we do?" someone asked. Looked around the damaged chamber at the empty seats and cracked walls and darkened lights. He thought about all the species that had died, all the worlds that had burned, all the hope that had been lost. "We do what we should have done 50 years ago," he said. "We listen to the humans, we learn from them, and we ask, humbly and honestly, if they will give us another chance." He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was heavy with shame and hope mixed together. "We go to Earth, we knock on their door, and we pray that they are willing to open it." The vote was not unanimous. It was not even close. Many representatives refused to participate, too proud or too angry to admit their mistakes. But enough of them voted yes. Enough of them were willing to try. A message was prepared, a ship was chosen, a delegation was assembled. For the first time in 50 years, the galaxy was going to talk to humanity. And somewhere in human space, on a flagship called the Independence, Admiral received word that visitors were coming. She looked at the message for a long time, then smiled. "They finally figured it out," she said to herself. "Took them long enough." She called her crew to stations and began preparing to welcome the galaxy back into humanity's life. The collapse was not over, the healing had not begun. But for the first time in decades, there was hope. And hope, as humans had always known, was where everything started. The galactic delegation ship was old and broken. Its hull was patched with mismatched metal. Its engines coughed and sputtered as it moved through space. It had been the best ship they could find, which said everything about how far the galaxy had fallen. High Speaker stood at the front of the observation deck, watching human space grow larger ahead of them. The other delegates stood behind him, a collection of species that had once ruled the stars but now came as beggars to those they had cast out. "We are being scanned," the ship's pilot announced. "Multiple contacts on sensors, human ships surrounding us." Looked at the display and felt his heart sink. There were hundreds of human ships around them, perhaps thousands. Each one was larger and more advanced than anything the galaxy could build now. The humans had not been idle during their exile. "They could destroy us easily," a Ali delegate muttered. "We are defenseless." "If they wanted to destroy us, they would have done it by now," replied. "They are watching, waiting, deciding." A communication signal came through, and a human face appeared on their screen. It was a woman with silver hair and calm eyes, wearing a military uniform covered in symbols of rank. "This is Admiral of the Human Defense Force," she said. "You are entering protected space. State your purpose." Stepped forward. "Admiral, I am High Speaker of the Galactic Council. We have come to speak with humanity." "The Galactic Council," repeated. Her voice was neutral, revealing nothing. "The same council that exiled us 50 years ago." "Yes," admitted. There was no point in lying or making excuses. "The same council. Many of us were there that day. Many of us voted for the exile." "And now you are here. Why?" Took a deep breath. He had practiced this speech many times, but now that the moment had arrived, the words felt small and inadequate. Because we were wrong, he said simply. Because our galaxy is dying and we do not know how to save it. Because we cast away the one species that could have helped us, and now we have come to ask if you will help us again. Admiral studied him through the screen. Her expression did not change, but something shifted in her eyes. "Follow my ship," she said finally. "You will be taken to a meeting point. Do not deviate from the course we give you, and do not power up any weapon systems." "We understand. Thank you, Admiral." "Do not thank me yet. I am just bringing you to the people who will decide whether to help you. That decision is not mine to make." The screen went dark, and a human ship moved into position ahead of them. The galactic delegation followed, their broken vessel limping through space surrounded by the might of humanity. The meeting point was a station orbiting Mars. It was enormous, a city in space that could have housed millions of people. Lights glittered across its surface like stars brought down from the sky. And his delegation were escorted to a large conference room. It was simple and functional, without the elaborate decorations that galactic species preferred. Chairs were arranged around a table, and water and food had been provided. They waited. An hour passed, then two. Some of the delegates grew impatient but understood. The humans were making them wait on purpose. They were sending a message about who held power now. Finally, the door opened, and a group of humans entered. At their head was an elderly woman in a simple dress. Her face was lined with age, but her eyes were sharp and clear. "I am," she said. "I was Earth's ambassador to the galaxy 50 years ago. Some of you may remember me." Remembered. He had been a junior delegate back then, watching from the upper levels as this woman faced the entire council alone. She had smiled at their verdict and walked away with her head held high. "I remember you," he said. "You told us we would need humanity again. You were right." Sat down at the table and the other humans took seats around her. "Tell us about your galaxy," she said. "Tell us what has happened." For the next several hours, the galactic delegates described the collapse. They talked about the wars and the plagues and the failed trade routes. They talked about species that had gone extinct and civilizations that had burned. They talked about their desperate attempts to hold things together and their failure at every turn. Listened without interrupting. Her face remained calm throughout the terrible stories. When the delegates finally finished, she was silent for a long moment. "You know," she said finally, "when you exiled us, many humans wanted revenge. They wanted to wait until your galaxy fell apart and then refused to help. They wanted you to suffer the way you made us suffer." The delegates shifted uncomfortably. They had expected this. "But revenge is not who we are," continued. "We are humans. We build things. We fix things. We help people even when those people do not deserve it. That is our nature, and we will not change it just because you hurt us." She leaned forward, her old eyes meeting compound gaze. "We will help you," she said, "but not in the way you expect and not for free." "What do you want?" asked. "What price must we pay?" Smiled, and for a moment she looked like the young ambassador who had faced the council all those years ago. "We do not want payment. We want partnership. Real partnership, not the false kind we had before. We will help rebuild your trade routes and end your wars. We will share our technology and our medicine. We will do everything we can to save your dying galaxy. And in return, you will treat us as equals. You will listen when we speak. You will consider our ideas even when they seem strange. You will remember that different is not the same as wrong." She paused. "And you will never, ever try to exile us again." Looked at his fellow delegates. They were defeated and desperate, in no position to negotiate. But more than that, they were tired. Tired of the old ways that had brought them to ruin. Tired of the fear and the pride that had cost them everything. "We accept," said. "We accept all of your terms." Nodded, "Then let us begin." Over the following months, human ships spread throughout the galaxy. They carried food to starving worlds and medicine to plague-ridden populations. Human engineers rebuilt broken infrastructure. Human diplomats mediated between warring species. Human scientists shared knowledge that had been developed during the 50 years of exile. The galaxy had expected humans to be angry. They had expected demands and conditions and punishment. Instead, they received help, pure, unconditional help from beings they had wronged. It confused them at first, then it humbled them, and finally it changed them. On a rebuilt space station, High Speaker met with Admiral for a private conversation. "I do not understand your people," he admitted. "We treated you terribly. We cast you out and tried to erase your existence. Any other species would want revenge." Smiled slightly. "Do you know what the word humanity means in our language? It does not just mean our species. It also means kindness, compassion, treating others with dignity. When we call ourselves human, we are reminding ourselves who we want to be. And you want to be kind, even to those who hurt you. Especially to those who hurt us, because that is when it matters most. Anyone can be kind to their friends. It takes something special to be kind to your enemies." Thought about this for a long time. His species had lived for thousands of years, and they had never developed such a concept. Kindness was for allies. Enemies were to be defeated and controlled. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "that is why you are different. Perhaps that is why we needed you all along." Nodded, "Perhaps. Or perhaps we just learned something that your species forgot. The galaxy is vast and old, High Speaker. It has room for many ways of thinking. The mistake you made was believing that your way was the only way. And humans believe there are many ways. Humans believe that everyone has something to offer, even the species we disagree with, even the cultures that confuse us, even the people who exile us from their community." She smiled again. "We are stubborn that way." Back on Earth, sat in her garden and watched the sunset. She was very old now, older than most humans lived. But modern medicine kept her healthy enough to enjoy her final years. A young woman came to sit beside her. It was the diplomat who had helped the stranded trader so many months ago. "The latest reports are in," said. "Trade routes are functioning at 70% of their historical capacity. 3 major wars have ended with peace agreements. The plague has been controlled on all affected worlds." "Good," said. "That is good progress. The council wants to give you an award. They want to name a star system after you." Laughed, a sound that still had warmth despite her age. "Tell them to name it after humanity instead. I did not save the galaxy. We did. All 8 billion of us plus all the billions who came before." Nodded, "I will tell them." They sat in silence for a while, watching the colors spread across the sky. "Do you ever regret it?" asked. "The exile, I mean. If it had not happened, you might have lived your whole life as an ambassador. You might have had an easier path." Considered the question. The exile was painful. Being rejected by the galaxy, being told we were not welcome, that hurt more than I can describe. But it also set us free. It forced us to grow in ways we never would have grown otherwise. She looked at the young diplomat with eyes that had seen so much. The galaxy decided to exile Earth, and humanity grinned and walked away. We walked away because we knew that we were not the problem. We knew that one day they would understand. And we knew that when that day came, we would be ready to help. And now that day is here. Yes, and we are helping. Not because we have to, not because we want something in return, but because it is the right thing to do. Because that is who we are. She reached out and took his hand. "Never forget that. No matter what happens in the future, no matter how the galaxy changes, never forget what makes us human. Kindness, courage, hope, the ability to walk away from those who hurt us and still come back to help them when they need us." The sun finished setting, and stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, human ships were flying through alien space, bringing aid to beings who had once been enemies. The exile was over, the healing had begun. And humanity, as always, was leading the way, not with weapons or threats, but with open hands and willing hearts. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. They had learned that the species they feared most was also the species that could save them. They had learned what it truly meant to be human. And they would never forget again.